Hello and welcome to Ita's third episode of Splendorous September Women in Business. We have Michelle Salam with us. She is a whipped cream artist, a baker, and the founder of Sweet Temptation. Today we are going to, along with Michelle in her journey as a successful businesswoman. Welcome, Michelle. Over to you.
Thank you. Yeah. Very good afternoon to all who are viewing this, and especially to the members, the admin, and the creator of this particular group that has founded with the intention of bringing all the people from the Northeast under one roof. So I think this is an amazing initiative, and we should all come together to try and help one another, in whatever possible way we can. Right. So thank you so much once again, and a very good afternoon to all who are signing in for this broadcast. Are we good to go? Ready to start? Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah. So I wanted to share a bit of my journey, and I think because when we talk about people who are successful, we often find that the journey and the difficulties are not shared too much. And I personally feel that when you share your difficulties more, it actually helps others in overcoming their problems. So I'm going to start. I've prepared this small presentation, and I'm going to start at the beginning of my journey. Some of you may know me, but may not actually know my journey. So I hope this helps you and also guides you, because also going to share some practical things that one requires if you were to venture into the food industry today. So I'm basically an economics graduate, and did both my schooling and graduation from outside. I left for boarding, that is St. Mary's Convent, Nainital, at the age of 7 years. And I would say that these 9 years has grown me to be the person that I am today. The ability to work hard, the willingness to walk into the unknown, to stand on my own feet, earn my own income, and also make sure that my education and exposure is not wasted in a hometown like ours, which definitely has progressed considerably in the last 2 decades, are some of the key factors I would say that has motivated me to start my own bakery business. This is a small brief history about my business, basically. So it has basically been founded by me over a period of 2 decades and more, step by step. As I just mentioned, that I had no background in baking, and my first cake was made following a recipe from a Soil Telegraph magazine in late 1996. Though I would like to add here that my mother is a Goan, and as a child, I have always eaten wholesome home baked cakes. I would whip up batter with a fork because those were days there were no tools, there was no equipment, and neither did I have any of the modern gadgets that are available today. So I would whip actually the batter with a fork for hours, and I would bake in it in a tandoor, as that was the only utensil that was lying in the kitchen at that time. And this is something, a tandoor, where you cannot even regulate temperature. So I would simply wait and watch for hours to be for that first cake to be baked. Okay, so after several trials, I did realize that I did have a knack of baking, and started spreading the word by offering friends and families at small occasions and small gatherings. So I would say that this actually meant, in management terms, discovering my talent, right, and a strength. And so the idea of a business actually grew from a suggestion offered by a friend to put a price to my cake, so that others did not feel hesitant to come forward, and to order something. So I priced my first cake, and my vanilla cake at rupees 200, and my chocolate cake at rupees 225, respectively. So I would say this was the birth of a business idea, right? I earned my first official pay in April of 1998. It was a mere sum of rupees 450 rupees, but it truly felt priceless. I would say again, in management terms, this is reward for hard work. In 1998, I saved enough to buy my first OTG. As you all know, that chit fund, or what we call Marup in our language, is a way of life for us out here in smaller towns. So from 1998 to 2010, I bought four more small OTGs, and I was managing with that. And I graduated to a mid-segment commercial oven in 2010 by flying down to Calcutta and buying from Calcutta. And within the span of another 9 years, that is still last year, I have invested in four big commercial ovens and one mid segment and five planetary mixers. So I would say saving has been a very crucial step in helping me to be where I am today. And so, for whatever be your line of work that you choose, I think you have to make saving an integral part of your life, and it should come to you very naturally because that it is one habit that will help you in achieving your small goals, right? Likewise, the journey with expansion also has been gradual. I started by buying one display unit in 2010, in 2012, sorry, and that was actually placed in my own garage area because from the kitchen I started working in the garage area, and I did open up to public, but it was still on a very very small scale. As you know, those were times where there was no social media, so it was mainly word of mouth and through family and friends and small gatherings, right? And in 2014, I opened my first cafe in Monaco. And last year in 2019, the construction of what I would say my cake atelier or the cake studio, which is my dream project and finally materialized after 20 years, 2 decades of working hard. And my second cafe I opened up in Thameban in July of last year. So I wanted to share with you some of the problems that I really faced in the beginning. As the saying goes, adversity is the mother of all invention. I think that these problems that I faced have shaped me to be the person I am today and have immensely contributed to my growth, both as a human being and as an entrepreneur. I never did my MBA, so I may not necessarily know the theory aspect of MBA. But yes, I do have 20 years of experience behind me, which has helped me know a lot about the functional aspects of how to run a business. So in 1997, I was very young, determined, and to venture into the unknown, and started by saving just a few hundreds of rupees to first buy that OTG, the first OTG, right? So my first hurdles were almost immediate. In late 90s, the first hurdle I think I faced was water. There was always constant water shortage, and powers. I mean, the water supply would probably come just once or twice a week, and I had to fill up water in these bright jars and keep them in the kitchen. It's not just about baking. How do you run any kind of business from home if you don't have water? Water is a very basic necessity, right? Then the next hurdle, electricity. Electricity was definitely a nightmare. Those were the days where we had 10 to 12 hours of load shedding. And I remember the government giving electricity at ungodly hours, in the wee hours of the morning. Those were times when everybody was sleeping, and I would nurse my small child to sleep and actually go up to the kitchen and bake that one single cake at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in the morning. It was definitely very hard on the body and as well on the mind, but I think this hardship has made me a very resilient person. Door to door sales. I did not own a vehicle, and what I did was borrow my father-in-law's car and fill it up with small sum, 100 rupees, 200 rupees of petrol, and go to houses of relatives and, get them to taste samples of the little bakes that I was doing at that time. So this, I think, was my first lesson in advertising, though I did not realize it at that point of time. Those were not the days of social media. So definitely, all we had was word of mouth, and I tried to spread the word that I was baking by actually going to be relatives' houses and friends' houses. Cake boards, something as simple as cake board, and is taken for granted today. The cake board or the cake base is something that is put under the cake, right? It wasn't available then at all. And I used to go to buy these thick corrugated sheets, these Maggie boxes, cartons, and your everyday cartons, and buy from from the grocery stores, and come back and use these, heavy scissors to cut them into the particular shape, because there was no option at that time. And as my orders grew, I realized that I had to think of another alternative. So, with no mentor ahead of me, nobody to consult, nobody to ask as to how to go about it, I actually bought bamboo sticks from people, from vendors who were selling chicken coops. And then I would sharpen them the whole day and make them as sharp as a pencil nib, and then use this, pierce them through the corrugated sheets to actually make that cake board. So this in itself was a teaching moment. It taught me that, you have to look for alternatives yourself sometimes. Not every solution is easily available. Sourcing ingredients. There was no successful bakery at that time, and as such, no local vendors were willing to invest in any kind of product that I wanted to use in my cakes, because they were not willing to take a chance to, ship in, or to, bring in cream and, simple things like icing sugar and cocoa powder from outside, because quite frankly, there was no market at that time. So it was really, really difficult. But so I just made do with what was available. First, it was Amul butter, so I used that. Then, after some time, about 2 years later, Amul cream into the market came into the market. I used that, and in 2010, I finally convinced one of the non-monetary vendors in the market to invest and to get me non-dairy whipped cream. So it was really difficult, but what it taught me was that you got to, if you beggars can't be choosers, sometimes you have to efficiently use what is in front of you, and when you perfect that, that automatically hones up your skill, whatever be your line of work, right? uh, when it comes to dealing with stress, I think dealing with stress was automatic. It happened from day one. For instance, my work was constantly affected by factors that I had no control over. The first would be economic blockades, months and months of economic blockades, political issues, as you all know, buns that are called on the spot without any kind of warning, petrol shortage, natural calamities, landslides, earthquakes. All these things affected my work, as most of the ingredients were actually coming from outside. So it was definitely a difficult journey, because these are factors that I cannot control. So it was very difficult to be answerable to my clients or to my customers, because I had no control over these factors. So, and I would say eggs is also another very important part of my business. But I had a lot of difficulties in getting the right quantity of eggs for my work, and I did try to source it locally, actually. But I think due to logistics and due to infrastructure at that time, because it does require a lot, a lot of infrastructure, so which I think people were not willing to invest at that time. So coming down to current situation, there's still a huge gap between demand and supply. The demand for eggs is way more that is actually being supplied. And so many of you who may be watching this, maybe you could think of bridging the gap in this matter. Money. I would say money is very important, but no, it isn't everything. It isn't everything. Passion, passion for what you do, to keep practicing what you know, and perseverance are some of the key factors over and above money. So I would like to share with you two instances which were milestones in my journey. One was when there was a landslide between Nagaland and Manipur, and I had all these wedding cake orders. And for me, it was not about the money. I wanted to commit and I wanted to make that their day special. So I actually ruined my own private vehicle by sending it to the landslide area, and we had to walk across and get the cream from the thermocol packs, in the from the transporters, and then brought it back here to be able to meet those orders. And there was another time, this was Christmas orders, and again, the same thing happened. The economic blockade lasted for so many months. It was really difficult, and I had no choice but to invest for me a sum of about 2 lakhs. 2 lakhs at that time was a huge sum of money. So I spent that money in flying that cream by air cargo. Did I make any money? Did I make any profit? No. It was a complete loss for me. But the joy that comes from having met that order and from making that Christmas special is again something that money can't buy. So I would say that it is important, but if you consistently and persistently do what you do, it is going to follow automatically. It does. It does. So as the saying goes, Rome is not built in one day, right? Um, to run a successful business, whatever be your line, whether it's baking, whether anything in the food industry, there's some of these key factors that I want to share with you, which I feel have been very important in shaping my journey over the last 2 decades. The first would be vision. You definitely need a vision, a goal to work towards. Otherwise, you will be running about aimlessly. You need to make both short term goals, long term goals, goals both at the micro level and as well as the macro level. Okay. I did not have all these answers then, and I still do not have them now too, because the situation keeps changing in a small town like ours from day to day, from month to month. But you learn along the way, right? Communication skills. You may be a gold medalist, you may be extremely talented, but if you are unable to put your knowledge into words and communicate it effectively, it is of no value. So I feel one of the most underrated skills in business is actually listening. If you listen to your peers, if you listen to your mentors, if you listen to people, to your team members, to your staff, you actually gain a lot of insight and a lot of information uh, by listening than by talking. Talent. It is very important to know your strength and your weaknesses. It is not possible for everybody to be good at everything. You need to identify your strength, work on it consistently, and build up your reputation as a strong contender in your area of strength. Don't compare yourself to somebody else. You are an individual, you are important. What you do is important. Have faith in that, and clients will follow, orders will follow, whatever be your line of work. So, for example, my area of expertise currently is whipped cream, right? But for baking is a very vast field. Under baking, you have cookie making, chocolate making, cold desserts, French patisserie. So it's not just about cake decoration and cake baking. There's so many fields under baking too, and one cannot be good at everything. You need to identify your strength and choose that particular field that is going to work well for you, that you believe in. Information and technology. It is important to read, to study, to look up successful entrepreneurs, especially in the particular line that you want to take up. Read up their success story and how they use information and technology to be successful today. You need to keep a track, no matter how small your business is. You need to keep a track of income and expenditure, input and output, and definitely have a growth chart. So we did not have tools like spreadsheets and all that that you have today, but I definitely was very meticulous with whatever I did. And even when I started out and I was buying, eggs worth 50 rupees, it is something I noted down. It gives you an awareness as to what you have spent and where you have spent. The right team and the right staff. I think it is absolutely crucial to hire people who understand you, your vision, and who will work alongside with you to help you achieve that vision. A good leader is somebody who can identify somebody's strength and of an employee and help harness that. I can proudly say that today I know the strengths and the weaknesses, the aches and pains of all those who I've hired simply because I myself went through that process. Be ethical in your practice. Plagiarism, downloading somebody else's creation, calling it your own, not giving credit where credit is due. There's so many other things that are surfacing now in today's time with modern technology. There's growth at one hand, at the other end, these are some things that have surfaced in today's time. I think it is very important that there's competition as long as it is healthy. Competition also keeps one on your toes, and also it improves the overall standard of the industry. So I am in baking, and I see a lot of young people coming up. It is good. It improves and increases the overall standard of the food industry as a whole in our town. Marketing and advertising. Market your product, spend money on advertising, let people know about your product and why it is different from the others, and use social media handles. Like I said, when I started, there was nothing. Today, the youth are very fortunate. You have endless YouTube tutorials, you can sign up for classes, and you can immediately reach out to an audience or to your customers by simply opening a Facebook page, a business page, or a social media handle like Instagram. So a lot of focus has shifted to Instagram because it is almost immediate attention that you get. And if you have a good product, visual is something that has an impact on anybody. So I started out in 2009, I think, when I first opened my Facebook page. So I didn't know much, and also how to go about posting, what to say, and but I have learned along the way. So currently, between my Facebook page and my Instagram account, there are about 50,000 followers, and I hope to keep growing it. Right? They both go by the name of Michelle Sweet Temptation. If you want to look it up, if you want to look up these handles. So I have shared some of my difficulties, not to intimidate you, but also to let you know that whatever you do and whatever stage you at, be it at a beginner's level or at an intermediate level, or even if you're very successful in your business, at every stage there is going to be hurdles. You are going to make mistakes, but it is those hurdles and those mistakes that help you come closer to achieving your goal and help you make informed decisions so that you don't make the same mistake twice, right? Let's talk about uh, some practical information that I want to share with you all. If some of you want to venture into the food industry or baking, these are some of the certificates that you need, that you require. So for me, it was really difficult. I actually went from government office to office for about 2 years to gather this information because it was not available on the net. And nobody knew which office one has to go to get what certificate. And in the first place, what are the certificates that are required? So I'm sharing it now. I will also post it here so that you can have a look at it as a reference for anybody who wants to start a business in the food industry. So you require a pollution certificate, a fire certificate, a shop license if you want to actually showcase your product. uh, you need a certificate from the weight and statistics department. For example, you're selling a packaged product or a dry product. Your certification should say how much your products are, how many grams, how many grams it weighs. So this is also a department that you need to get a certification from. GST, Yes, you do need to do the right thing, and no matter how small your business is, the entire India is under the GST umbrella. So you do need to pay your taxes, and it helps you. Don't avoid it. It helps you to get loans later. It also speaks very highly about you as an individual if you pay, if you pay taxes. So I encourage it. One of the most important licenses is the FASAI. It is very easy now because it is all on the net. You just need to go to their website, and the website opens up and tells you all the kind of certificates or all that you need to procure to get the certificate. Trademark. I am in the creative line. Trademark is something I feel if you have achieved a certain part of your journey and you want to get your product or your business registered with a trademark. For that, the center is at Kolkata for the Northeast. It is a process according to the kind of name you choose. Supposing you choose a name that is very common, I guess the trademark takes a bit longer. So you would probably need to go through somebody like a copyright lawyer or something to assist you as to how to go about it, to do it, than to do it individually. Then you have something called the Udyog Aadhaar. Just like your PAN is a unique identification number, the Udyog Aadhaar is a unique identification number given to your business. So these are some of the certifications that you do require if you want to venture into the food business. Buying machinery. So I have had my fair share of being cheated or being sold a lemon, basically. So my advice to anybody who wants to buy machinery in the food industry is that you must look up reviews, buy from reputed companies, do your research, right? Talk to people who have bought from that company. Don't hesitate. You're about to spend a sum of money, be it small or be it big. Also, make sure that you buy from a company that offers you good after sales service. So you might buy or invest in an imported machinery, but if they do not offer you after sales service in our hometown or in the Northeast, it is of no use. So this, I think, is very important because I have faced immense hardship in this particular line. Finance. Keep yourself informed. Apply for startup programs that come up every year in your own state. Look for microfinance institutions, NGOs that give you grants and subsidies. And if you are left with no option but to take a business loan, do make sure that you take it from a subsidized, or I mean from a nationalized bank. Private banks are very expensive. The rate of interest is very high. So it adds up a lot of pressure to you, when you have to while paying your EMIs. So look for keep yourself updated. So I do have in recent times, over the last 1 month, I have been shared links of different organizations that are offering assistance, right? So I will post that too. I will share those links in this group and you can look it up. I myself have not had too much time, but you can have a look at it, read about it, and see if it helps you in getting some finance in helping you start your own local business, right? Now let's talk about business in current times. It's a universal truth that nobody was prepared for the pandemic. Every single one of us is affected. Every economy is affected, from the cobbler to the imas in the Ima Kaitien, to small businesses to big businesses. There is nobody who is not affected by the pandemic, right? We are still learning, we are still coping, we are still unsure of a lot of things as to how long it is going to go on, but we need to be prepared that it is going to go on for some time. So in this regard, the first thing would obviously be the protocols that are necessary. I will not spend too much time on that because we are all aware of it, right? Wearing masks, social distancing, sanitization, um, keeping all the required things to make sure everything is sanitized in your workplace or in a small outlet that you have. So this is something basic protocol that all of us know. So I will not spend too much time on it. The second thing would be, for your business to survive right now, is to maybe connect with home delivery teams. There's so many that have mushroomed in Manipur over the last 1 year, and especially now during the pandemic. So reach out to them, right? Because a lot we are still scared. Most people, most parents don't want to venture out too much, and they want the comfort of these goods to be delivered to their homes, So I think for your business to survive, it is important that you reach out to home delivery teams. Offer pickup, right? Not dine in. I myself am not allowed. We are not allowed to. The cafes are not allowed to have dine-ins, but we are allowed to have people, customers come in and pick up. I have still not yet opened my cafes. I'm planning to do that this Sunday because I wanted to ensure the safety of my staff as well as my clients, right? The other thing that you can do is to tie up with e-platforms. If your product is something that can last over a few days or much longer than that, you can tie up with e-platforms that can showcase your product and also help boost up your sales, which otherwise would be difficult, right? So I think to survive in the pandemic, these are some of the things that we have to adopt, we have to learn to be able to sustain ourselves in these times, okay? The food industry is, I think, one of the only surviving industries along with medicine. That's because uh, we have food is something, it's a basic need. So this anybody who is in the food line is somebody who is already one step ahead, because food is a necessity, and even if we can't go out, we definitely need to eat food, right? So being in the food industry is definitely helpful. Most of the other industries have really suffered. It is not to say that this industry hasn't suffered, but we have to adapt ourselves to make sure that we survive, right? So the commonality between the esteemed speakers before me is that we have all established our businesses locally. This is something I really want to emphasize on. We need to try to start enterprises, especially to the youth who are now starting out, who have been outside Manipur or in other countries and are now coming back home. We need to start enterprises that create jobs in our hometowns, because buying and selling from outside the state and reselling does not improve our economy in any way. We need to make sure that the money remains in our state, and that is how our state is going to progress, right? So I think the future, not necessarily everything is, the future is very bright. We need to know how to adapt ourselves given the current scenario. And it is difficult. We are all learning. I am also coping. I'm sure all of you are coping, but we can do this together. And I think this is an amazing platform that has been created where we can share our knowledge with each other and share difficulties so that we can help one another come up, and in that way help each other to get through these hard times, right? And make our business at the same time sustainable. So I've prepared a small PDF of my workplace, which is in Manchpukri, and also some of my cakes, which I would like to share with you all, so that you can see a little bit, peek into the my workplace too, and to see how things operate out there. So sorry, it's just taking a minute or so to start this. Is this screen visible to everybody?
Yeah, Michelle, it's visible. Don't worry.
Okay, okay. Hi, so this is the end of the presentation. I hope everybody who's viewing it is enjoying it.
Yeah,
I
thank you
cannot
so
hear
much,
it.
Michelle. What a journey.
Thank you.
Yeah, Michelle,
Yeah, yeah.
I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions. Okay, see,
Right,
Manipur,
sure.
as we all know, we are people who like Singju and Bora and Kangho, okay, right? We never had the baking culture. uh, I mean, we never cut cakes and all when we grew up, right? It's like once in
Right.
our like 15 years or something, we celebrate our birthday
Yeah,
with cakes and all that.
yeah.
So, in this kind of what you say that cultural this thing, how do you create this? It's like creating someone to like Hawaii jar or ngari or something
Yeah.
like that. How do you create, and how do you become a very, I mean, we all know that how mm,
Right. So I think the
yeah,
first
I mean, we you had share your
yeah.
challenges.
So the first decade, I would say, was very slow. I think what made a difference to the cake culture and brought a lot of awareness to everybody in general in our hometown is that most parents started sending their children out after class 10, right? In for good education outside the state. And what has happened then, with more people going outside the state, whether to find work or whether to study further, when you are outside in the cities, then you start to see, and you start to observe, and then you are offered so much more. And I think once they came back home, like obviously everybody comes back home for holidays, and to visit their parents and their families. So once that happened, I think the changes automatically started coming, because then the awareness came. Okay, this is what I get in Bangalore, this is what I get in Delhi, but we don't have it in our hometown. Is there somebody who's making this? So the basic shift of having no cake at all to this thing has definitely come about by exposure and awareness, by this whole influx of people who go outside and who come back. So initially, the first decade, I did not have too many people, but from 2010 to 2020, now the instant there's a new trend in the cake world or in the bakery world, I will already have messages saying, can you make this? So I think that has really changed, and obviously social media boom has transformed the industry altogether. So the baking industry as a whole is not just booming in Manipur; it is also booming worldwide. It is something that everybody is actually very much involved in right now. And I think with the pandemic, lots of bakers have come forward because everybody is at home trying out new things.
Uh, yeah, so that's so I'm just looking at your the accolades which you receive not only in Manipur, like nationally and even internationally. This is quite amazing, Michelle.
Thank you.
From a place of it's quite many, but I just want to point out one or two. One is that you got the Cream Cake Award winner by Indian Cake Awards in September 2019, and you are one
Yes.
of the top 10 the cake listed in the top 10 by Cake Master UK. Can you
Right.
please tell us about these awards which you receive nationally and internationally, and from a person who has never received any formal training and then
Yeah.
to compete with all the like professional bakers in
Yeah.
India and abroad?
Right, right. So I think the first thing that I actually had to do when I started meeting people from this industry outside was to explain that I'm not from Manipal and I'm from Manipur. The vision and their knowledge about the Northeast is extremely limited. So it is one of the things that I always like to do is to talk about our hometown, about the Northeast. With regards to cream, right? It was the first ever awards last year. It was just introduced last year. So, like I said, baking is very vast, and this was done by a secret panel where they judge your work over a long period of time. They take feedback. Now, who they've taken feedback from? Maybe some of my peers, people who have ordered from me. So this was done very secretly. When it comes to cream, there's something I want to explain to everybody, especially for the youth, those who have just graduated, and those who want to venture, especially in this line. There is something called, there's a huge difference in cream, right? One is called dairy cream. That is like basically, to explain in simple terms, like Amul fresh cream, right? It's called dairy because it comes consistently, and it is basically from milk, right? From mammals, like a cow or something like that. And non-dairy, which has picked up a lot in India, and which I started using from 2010 actually. Before that, I was not using it. You can do customization and the kind of designs that I create with non-dairy, but it is not coming from milk, right? It is actually manufactured, it is processed in the factory. So what I want, the message I want to give out to everybody is, if you are venturing in this line, you must be very clear as to the kind of cream that you're going to work with. or you can offer your clients a choice of dairy or non-dairy. I find not just here, but all over India when I've traveled, most people are using the terms interchangeably. It is not the same thing. So you cannot sell it to the client by saying it is the same thing. It is not right. You cannot term non-dairy whipped cream as fresh cream because it isn't. So I think my work was studied over a period of time by a secret panel, and some of them are world's famous artists worldwide. And then there was a listing of 4 people, and after that, the awards night was when it was declared. And I think what made me really happy was that it wasn't just about me getting the award. It was like I felt the award was for my hometown, because and for the Northeast, because we were finally being recognized in a field that we were not considered at all. So I hope to send out a very positive message to all the young people who are starting out, that there's nothing that should come in your way to achieve your dreams. And even if we are from a small town, there's so much that we can achieve.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Yeah, just one more question I want to ask is, see, a lot of people informally and formally are complaining during COVID, that all the government aid and funds are provided for organized sector. So unorganized sector, business vendors, and the like the IMA market and all small business people are suffering, but organized sector business people are actually climbing the ladder. So what is your opinion on this? Can you
Yeah,
share?
so most people would assume that I have had it very easy, like I already shared my journey. So in this regard, I want to say that I myself have not received any kind of government funding by way of subsidy, by way of grant. I did apply last year for the revenue stage, and I was rejected. I did not get any kind of assistance from the government. I do accept that this is, there's a lot of red tape involved, and it is very difficult. Like it is very difficult for the average person to reach out and to get this. So I have a few links that I would like to share. I will post it. I am not too sure how helpful they would be, but I'm going to share some links in that regard, because it is true that this is not very organized, and there are a few people who consistently get the help and some who do not. And so this is something that I myself am looking into, and as and when I find answers, I'm definitely going to assist. And the links, like I mentioned in my talk, I will share that out here to see if anybody can make use of those links and get some kind of assistance for their local businesses.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michelle. Because see, this is not only for during COVID time, even like
It's
before COVID.
in normal
Yeah,
times. Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Even before COVID, when we meet weavers, for example, weavers in Manipur, I mean, they hardly able to get the yarn at the subsidized rate,
Right.
which the government gave. Okay. So then when we asked why you are not able to get it, they said we need to have a registered organization or a cluster, or or something like that. Then
Yes.
they
Yes.
yeah. So this is something, if you could share that, it will be nice.
Right.
Mm,
I do have a few links. I think in this regard, there's actually no proper organization or no government office that actually helps you. For a lay person who's just starting out with a few thousands of rupees, it's very hard for them to go about where to get certification. How are they going to get? All they want is just a little bit of assistance. So I think maybe, all of us should come together in this matter, and maybe submit a project, and so that it reaches the right person, the right people, where we can get assistance. I'm still searching for those answers. I really haven't got too much like something very substantial, because I myself went through that, and from who to get, where to get, how to get. And then finally, when you do reach that office, the list of certifications and the list of documents that one requires is enough to put most people off. For the average person, they're not going to be able to go through that. So yes, this is an unexplored area, and we need to maybe get in touch with each other to know how we can assist one another in this, because this isn't a straightforward answer. I still haven't found out which organization and which state department is going to be able to assist locally without, having all this, huge documents and all these registrations and all that, which most people will not be able to get down. So there isn't really a straightforward answer that I have, but we can work towards trying to find out, or maybe we can create a group that can help in this area.
Okay. Yeah, one thing which I always wanted to know the difference between the fondant and the whipped cream. Can you just share a little bit, not a very technical part, just for
Yeah,
a
so
lay?
basically, the cake world is like the cake decorating world is divided into two. That is the cream, and then under cream and fondant, right? And all the cakes that most people you see are downloaded images of fondant cakes. So now that really adds a lot of creativity, but at the same time, basically, fondant is a sugar dough. Okay, so the temperature, the humidity, there's so many factors that affect fondant. And what I am specialized, or my bakery is specialized in, is cream. So what we are doing is combining the best of both worlds. That is, you have cream cakes and you add the decorative element made from fondant, which is a sugar dough. Now you can't exactly shape cream into a teddy bear, right? Because it is a soft, it's very soft, it's a perishable commodity, so, and it is basically in a liquid form, so there's no way you can shape that into something. So if you want to add customization to your cake, then you have to actually combine both these, the yumminess and the freshness of a cream cake along the decorative element made by fondant. So actually, abroad and in the cities, it was mainly always fondant. Cream has caught on in a very big way over the last 5, 6 years because we are basically a tropical country. So we were basically looking for a solution where our cakes remain fresh, and cakes, the cream, basically to withhold the humidity that is in the air, right? So there is a difference. One is basically a sugar dough. It is a hard substance, but it will react because it has sugar in it, which basically means moisture if it melts, right? So the two basic categories are fondant, and the other one is cream, and again, which is broken up into dairy cream and into non-dairy cream. So these are the two broad categories of the cake world.
Okay. So in Sweet Temptation, so you are only emphasizing on cakes, or are you also baking like cookies and croissants and breads?
Yes. So actually, I did go outside and do a short course in bread making, but I haven't yet able to introduce it because bread making is a very exact science, and you actually need to train other people also to make it like a really good bread, like to offer, say, sourdough bread or multi-grain bread like you have in the cities. That is actually an exact science. But yes, for Hajampots and for other occasions, we are now doing hampers, and it's been quite some time. We have introduced other items like dry base. There are a lot of my clients who don't even look at cream cakes. All they want is just the dry items because, as you said, we are a town where we love our tea, we love our Sinju and our Bora. So what most people actually want is like basically tea time cakes, or like a muffin which can be stored, and which can even be given to your children as tiffin, because if you take a birthday cake, it is perishable. You have to consume it within 2, 3 days, right? So yes, I have introduced, and I'm going to continue to introduce. But right now, I guess with the pandemic, a lot of things change, and we don't. No one really knows what happens tomorrow. You open the shop, then you're told somebody is positive, then you have to close the shop. So those are, again, like I said, factors that we have no control over. But yes, every month or every week, I do trials of new recipes, and I intend to keep introducing it, and to make sure that Manipur as a whole and Northeast as a whole, we are at par with the cities outside, and we are no less in the patisserie world. So we are equally good at as the rest of India or the rest of the world.
Yeah, seeing your accolades, yeah, we are already ahead of it, I think. the accolades you receive not only in India, even abroad. It's quite an achievement, and I think many people might not know. They just know you are a baker, but Michelle is a receivers of many awards in India and in abroad. Like I don't know. I mean, I should have read out all the awards which you got. It's quite interesting, and it's something which no one would think of. From a small place, from a non baking culture
Right. Yeah.
background.
Cake
You
culture.
Yes, yes, yeah. You had reached that height, and we wish you many more words to achieve.
Thank
Michelle, thank you so much for your time and making us understand many things about cakes and baking, and
you.
how to start a cake business. Thank you so much, Michelle.
You're most welcome. Thank you to everybody who joined in for today. Thank you so much.